Think about the last time you did absolutely nothing. Not scrolling, not listening to something, not resting with a show in the background. Just nothing. Can you even remember when that was? When you were a kid, doing nothing was just normal. You'd sit somewhere, stare at the ceiling, watch the light move across the wall. Not because you were tired, not because you were sad, just because that's what you were doing. There was no guilt attached to it, no voice in your head saying you should be doing something more useful. Time just existed around you, and you existed inside it, without needing it to look a certain way or go anywhere in particular. Boredom was just part of the day. It showed up between things, between lunch and going outside, between one activity and the next. And it didn't feel like a problem. It felt like a pause, like the day was just breathing for a second. I remember some afternoons where literally nothing happened. And I mean nothing. No plans, no screen, no particular thought. Just heat, silence, and time that felt almost endless. I didn't appreciate it back then. You never do when it's easy. And here's the thing. Nobody taught you how to do it. You didn't learn it, you didn't practice it. It just came naturally. Because back then, your brain hadn't yet learned that empty time was something to fix, that silence was something to fill. At some point, the way you looked at empty time completely changed. Not overnight, not because of one thing, but somewhere between childhood and now, doing nothing stopped feeling natural and starting feeling like a problem. There's this idea that got installed in most of us, that time has to be useful, that if you're not working, you should be learning something, or improving something, or at least recovering efficiently, so you can go back to being productive again. Nobody sat you down and said idle time is wasted time, but you absorbed it anyway. Through school schedules, packed from morning to afternoon. Through parents who praised you when you were busy. Through a world that kept rewarding output and ignoring stillness. And as an adult, it only got stronger. Your value started feeling connected to what you produced. Your weekends needed to be well spent. Your evenings needed to count. Even relaxation became something to optimize, something to do correctly, something to justify. I notice it in myself when someone asks what I did over the weekend. There's this small reflex, almost like I need to have a good answer, something that sounds full, something that justifies the 2 days. Just saying I rested never feels like enough somehow. And the strange thing is, nobody is actually judging you. Most people aren't tracking how you spend your Saturday, but the judgment is there anyway, internalized, running quietly in the background, like a standard you set for yourself so long ago you forgot it was ever a choice. So doing nothing stopped being a default state. It became something you had to earn, something that needed to come after enough effort, enough output, enough proof that you deserved the pause. And somewhere in that shift, the pause itself got harder to actually feel. Here's what actually happened to your downtime. You didn't lose it, you didn't run out of it, you just filled it. So completely, so automatically, that you stopped noticing the feeling was even happening. Think about what you do the second you sit down with nothing planned. You reach for your phone, or you put something on in the background, a show, a podcast, music, anything. Not because you're bored yet, just because silence feels like something that needs to be covered. And it's not dramatic, that's the thing. It's not addiction, it's not weakness. It's just a habit so deeply wired that it doesn't even register as a choice anymore. The silence appears, and your hand moves, almost before your brain has time to notice. The tricky part is that it feels like rest. You're horizontal, you're not working, nobody is asking anything from you, but your brain is still consuming, still processing, still reacting to input. Passive consumption and actual rest are not the same thing, they just look similar from the outside. So the real silence disappears, not because you banned it, not because life got too busy, but because every time it showed up, you replaced it with something. And over time, your brain stopped expecting it, stopped knowing what to do when it arrived, stopped tolerating it at all. So what happens when you actually try? When you put the phone down, turn everything off, and just sit there, no plan, no input, no destination for your attention. Most people last about 90 seconds before something in them starts pushing back. The thoughts come first, the ones you've been out running all day, the unfinished conversation, the thing you said wrong last week, the decision you've been avoiding. When there's nothing to focus on externally, all of that moves to the front, quietly and all at once. Then comes the restlessness, this physical urge to move, to do, to fix something, anything. Your leg bounces, you reorganize something on the table, you stand up for no reason. Your body is looking for a task because your mind doesn't know how to just be anymore. I tried it recently, just sitting, no phone, nothing on, no reason to get up, and I made it maybe 2 minutes before I find myself reorganizing things on my desk that didn't need reorganizing. I wasn't even aware I'd moved. That said a lot to me. It might seem like a small thing, not being able to sit still, not being able to handle silence, but the cost of it is bigger than it looks, and it shows up in ways you might not immediately connect to this. Your best ideas have probably never come while you were staring at a screen. They came in the shower, on a walk, in that half-asleep moment before your alarm. Those are the last remaining spaces where your mind actually wanders freely, and they're getting rarer. There's a reason boredom used to spark creativity when you were younger. When there was nothing to consume, your brain started producing instead, making things up, daydreaming, solving problems sideways. That internal space is where imagination lives, and constant input slowly crowds it out. You also lose the ability to just be with yourself, without distraction, without performance, without anything to react to. That kind of comfort with your own company takes practice, and if you never sit in silence, you never actually build it. And then there's the fatigue that doesn't go away, the kind that sleep doesn't fully fix, because your brain never actually got to stop. It rested in the biological sense, but it never got quiet, it never got empty, never got the chance to just reset. And maybe the most invisible cost of all is that you slowly lose touch with what you actually want, what you feel, what matters to you right now, because those things only surface in the quiet. And if the quiet never comes, they just stay buried, waiting. So what if the problem isn't that you're lazy, or distracted, or addicted to your phone? What if the real problem is simpler than that? You just forgot that doing nothing was ever allowed in the first place. Every other species on Earth rests without guilt, without justifying it, without filling it with something productive. Humans are probably the only ones who turned stillness into a problem to solve, who looked at an empty moment and immediately asked, what should I be doing right now? Doing nothing is not the absence of something. It's actually its own thing. It's where your mind sorts itself out, where your nervous system exhales, where you remember, even briefly, what it feels like to exist without an agenda. That's not wasted time, that's necessary time. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to follow a routine, or download an app, or commit to anything. You just have to let a moment be empty sometimes, and resist the reflex to feel it, even for 2 minutes, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. I'm trying to get better at this, not perfectly, not with a system, just noticing when I reach for something out of reflex, and sometimes choosing not to. Sitting with the discomfort for a little longer than feels natural. It's way harder than it sounds. Maybe you don't need a new morning routine, or optimize your rest, or fix your relationship with your phone. Maybe you just need to remember something you already knew when you were 7 years old. That sometimes, nothing is exactly enough.